Hello and welcome to this week's Madaxman Lockdown podcast. It's number 11. We're on a roll. We're used to this. We've got the full gang back together. This is an all singing, all dancing, multi-music, 3 theme tune special this week to mark our 11th week of lockdown. We've got the usual painting chat. We've got the usual army list chat about the Fatimids. We ramble through the Napoleonic Wars. We get almost up to the invasion of Egypt. And yet again, Andy's fabulous quiz and Andy's fabulous quiz music returns. So sit back, pick up your paintbrush, give it a rattle around in the tin, and enjoy this week's podcast.
This means war.
Okay, well, welcome to the, I believe, 11th. Is that right, folks? 77 days of lockdown, 11 lockdown podcasts, which is slightly frighteningly what we're up to now. And we're back to 7 this time. So this will stretch over even longer than the last one, depending on how much new stuff we've all done in the last 7 days of decent weather and, in theory, relaxing lockdown. So I've got the full set of people here. So without further ado, it's time to go around the screen and see who's been painting what this week. So, Andy, what have you been painting? In fact, we're just looking at your Zoom background, your Zoom background there, and it's like weird green screen effect thing. It's like we're being talked to by a Klingon, but that's all good. You don't have to speak in Klingon language.
No,
I don't think that's
no. I think a lot of my clients would probably agree with that. I've been painting plastic Irishmen from the Atlantic.
Ah, yes, the men and their dogs.
Yeah, that's right. I sent you a couple of pictures, and I actually found them quite easy to paint.
Okay.
I mean, to be fair, there's not a huge amount of detail on them, because they're not even because they're all barefoot, and so there's not a lot of.
Can you see their toes and things like that, or is it?
Oh yes.
What is the detail on the figures?
I'd say it's pretty good actually. There's just not a lot of detail to actually put on them, but the figures have got the toes are well defined, the hands are well defined, faces are quite well done.
Okay.
What I particularly like about them, having done other plastics in before, is there's only actual 4 bits to each one, and the left arm is actually welded as part of the main body, so you don't have to fuck around with that. So the only bits you need to stick on are the right arm, the head, and the shield.
Okay. And how many different torsos do you get? Is it?
In each you got 6 different ones.
Okay.
In each sprue is the same, but there's 6 different ones. But because of the wide variety of weapons and styles of weapons and hands and shields and things, you can actually make everyone completely different.
Oh, right. So you've just got an enormous amount of right arms that comes.
Yeah, right arms, different types of shields. One of my favourite things they've got is actually they've got a small shield for the left hand with a couple of javelins being held in it.
Okay.
A spare javelins.
That's useful.
Okay. Well, that's it. Have you done? How are the dogs then? Did the dogs go together all right? Sometimes when you've got fur and things on those plastic, the mould lines can be a little bit decisive. But
no, pretty good. You get some of them. You get a bit of a distinctive line, but I think you can paint over that fairly easily. I'm more exercised as to what colour to paint the dogs. I'm never quite sure. I've just kind of gone a variety of browns, greys, black, white.
If they're Irish, wouldn't they be Irish wolfhounds? Don't they have a colour? Or
grey.
I wanted to paint the green, but I decided not to.
What's the colour of a Guinness?
Yes. Dark with a white head or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can tell they're Irish wolfhounds because when people throw javelins, they run and fetch them.
Nice to get that tumbleweed sound effect out so early in the podcast, I think, which is great. So has it been all Irish this week? Is it
all Irish? Yeah, there's a few days I wasn't able to paint for reasons I won't bore you with. So I've managed to get 12 figures and 4 dogs painted, and now on the 3rd batch of 6 figures and 2 dogs.
Okay, and just remind me again how many are in the pack?
30 figures and 10 dogs. Which in size terms is about 4 units.
Yeah, that's good, isn't it? Or if 8, I suppose you can't squeeze 2 dogs into an 8-man unit to give you 4 units, is it?
No, but you can make a unit out of 1 man and 7 dogs.
But not the other way around.
No.
No. I think there's an Eddy Izzard sketch that I used to be able to recite most of about when he was raised by wolves. but we probably won't go into that one as well. But there's a thing about having the wolves. They had 4 legs. No, he wasn't as fast as the wolves because the wolves had 4 legs between them. No, sorry, they had 4 legs each. Because if they had 4 legs between them, that would be 1 leg between every 5 wolves, and they'd be hopping, pulling other wolves on strings. Yeah, it doesn't really look. It's much better when Eddy Izzard does it. It's quite an old sketch. Yeah, there's a lot of nodding here, isn't there? Yeah, that works really well on Zoom. I might edit that out. 2000 AD background then. Tamsin, what, you've been doing 2000 AD all week?
No, I've been painting the sci-fi scatter terrain.
Okay,
so
that's
not
neat.
quite an A4 board, but there. So it's various crates, junkyards, scatter, and computer consoles.
So this is just
and
ready
today
for
I
more.
primed. Today I got primed for first of the Judge Dredd figures. So I'll start painting those tomorrow.
That's amazing discipline to get the terrain done before the figures. Because I would have thought you'll be like going figures, but tempted to go in for them.
I started with the terrain and just get it out of the way.
And what's your undercoating plan for the Judge Dredd figures? What is it? Black, dark, grey?
I went with black primer and then cenotaph highlight with using white ink through the airbrush.
Okay, white ink through an airbrush. I was just going to say white ink. I would have thought that would be a bit.
It's the first time I've actually tried that, and it's pleasantly surprised because normally when you airbrush, sort of, if you use white paint for it, it gets very speckly.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Very granular, but with the ink, it's much more fluid. And you don't get that.
Okay.
That's a tip I picked up from a couple of different YouTube channels and thought I'd try it. And yeah, I'm going to stick with that.
Wow. And white ink is actually kind of dense enough to sit on top of a black undercoat and show out the highlights, or does it still seep into the recesses or the folds of the stuff?
Well, because you're airbrushing it on, so it really only hits the highlights.
Okay, but it doesn't run off them, it just sticks to them like paint.
It sticks to them pretty much like paint, yeah, because the air helps to dry it on its way to the figure.
Ah, okay.
But it's
all right. Sorry, Peter?
Well, you said it sticks to it like paint. It is paint.
No, it's ink.
But it's ink.
I was using white acrylic ink. It does have acrylic binders like paint does, but because it's got more,
thinned out paint.
For use as ink, it's got a lot more sort of flow improver in than paint acrylic paint normally does.
Still paint.
Look, I think maybe we can do a special podcast on paint versus ink. What is it? Possibly we can string it out to half an hour. We can have a vote. We can get members of the public involved.
Yeah.
But then that might make our new record for whole section on viscosity. Maybe viscosity can get its own theme tune, something like that. We can do all that. So, Peter, after you've you and your luxurious hair have so constructively interjected. So clearly, you this week you failed to buy a pair of hair clippers, which is something that's hit the rest of us in stages over the last 10 weeks. But is it still Austrians this week? Because you missed last week, didn't you? You had the real world impinged on the podcast.
Yeah, real world has been impinging for the last 2 weeks with the style of work, and I'm literally just working alongside now. So Austrians have been going very, very slowly, even though they are white.
Okay.
So just slowly potting away.
Austrians going slowly is entirely historical.
So does that mean you've actually bought some new ones? Because if you're on a keyboard and you're working on computer all week, there's always that temptation just to look on another website for a bit.
Yes, I happen to have got more. I thought my grenadiers were looking very lonely, so they needed some Hungarian grenadiers, of course. So I've got them on the way as well. So I've got Austrian grenadiers and Hungarian grenadiers because they look so different from each other.
Right.
Well, trousers, mate, are a big difference.
Yeah. Well, the blue
trousers, yeah. Well, one was blue, one was white.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose if your army's entirely white, that's quite.
And collars and cuffs are a bit different.
Blue trousers, big different. Collars and cuffs, that's something else entirely. We're back to your luxurious hair again, aren't we? So how many is like an accidental Hungarian grenadier purchase then? What does that look like? Or dare you not admit it?
Another couple of units, but because I was buying those, they felt lonely, so I had to get some dragoons to go with it.
Well, you do have to, because you pay for the postage already, so you might as well leverage that investment and just value out a few kilos worth.
Well, then it got to the realms of, got to make it viable for the postage. So then I had to add on a couple of sort of like officers and things that I can use for, incidentals, and a couple more Jaegers. And, just to be polite, a couple more Gensers, because Eastern Geezer Gensers, I just thought you can't have enough of them.
Is this all they be?
Yeah.
That just like a couple more. That gets quite expensive, doesn't it? Well, because a few years ago, I did a cavalry corps, the 4th Cavalry Corps in 1812, the German Crushers and Polish Lancers, and I did them in all AB. And they are beautiful figures, but I just never tried to think about how much ever again.
Yeah, that's in the...
No.
Napoleon wouldn't be able to afford.
But they're on the way eventually.
Was that were you buying up the last of the stock from Fighting 15s? Now they're no longer doing Eureka?
I already did that. I already cleared them out. So this moved on to Eureka, so I don't know when they're going to turn up.
Oh, you bought them from Australia?
No, the UK
Eureka is UK.
Oh, okay.
Someone else has got the contract, haven't they?
Yeah.
Ah.
But how much stock they've actually got versus how much they have to make up or whatever, I don't know. But because I cleared out the other one, I cleared out Fighting 15s of all the viable Austrians. There was just some weird revolutionary ones, and I was like, even I'm not that crazy. And at the moment, but that's why I went onto the Eureka site. But I don't know how they're operating at the moment, so I'm just waiting.
I know. Ian used to have problems sometimes waiting a long time for Eureka to send him a shipment, because they wouldn't just send him little bits and bobs. They'd wait till they'd a decent quantity of stuff and then stick it all in a container.
A container? Right. Holy moly!
I didn't order that
20-footer.
I don't think you wanted a full container, but they were not going to. They weren't going to send. Wrap it in a plastic in a little parcel and stick.
I know AB's slightly larger scale than 15, but I didn't. I didn't need a shipping container dropped off at the house.
No, I don't think it's being a full container load, but it was. I think, as I understand it, I don't want you to be sued by Eureka, but my understanding from recollection is that they would be sending large quantities of figures rather than little bits piecemeal.
I think, to be fair, the same happens with
Eureka
stuff
UK.
like Old Glory.
Eureka UK, do they carry a decent amount of stock, or is it a case of...
I don't know. I mean, I think it also depends on who's got the right to cast them and whether they're being cast in the UK or being cast in Australia.
I think it's so new that, now they've stopped, because I think Fighting 15s literally just stopped yesterday stocking them. I saw something online saying they've closed their web store for a month just to sort themselves out and get rid of the bits and pieces they had left to a second-hand company, which I suspect will be Colonel Bill's, because they used to carry the AB stuff for Fighting 15s anyway at shows. But it's a guess, but it might not be the case. But probably them. But then I've got a sneaking suspicion, now you come to mention it, that Nick at North Star will have picked it up, because he seems to pick up nearly everything that is sold or distributed uniquely in the UK. So they're normally pretty good at casting and making stuff that's starting to get to kind of industrial scale, I believe. So that could be the answer. But you didn't get any indication about...
It's a shame that Nick, I lost the Brigade Games.
Oh, right. Was that the little tiny sci-fi stuff, Brigade Games? Or
no, that's Brigade Models. So Brigade Games is the American company.
Of course, yeah.
like Old Glory and Old Glory UK or 15 mil or whatever it is.
It was Front of Judea Games or something like that. So what did Brigade do then, or the other Brigade? Who's not the one
Brigade Games. So if you look them up on the web, you'll see what they do. They do all sorts. So we got Gangster Era, World War II, Napoleonics.
Wow,
we've got all sorts on there.
We're all in kind of 28 mil, that kind of scale.
It's small. The ones I've had are small.
Okay, so they're more old school 25.
More towards 25 and 25 mil, or true 28, rather than sort of the heroic 28 we used to with Warlord, Artisan and stuff. Might fit in well with carries.
Yeah, well, North Star carries so much different stuff now. I do keep. There's always something you can buy on that site, but then again, I've not bought anything for a while. So
yeah, North Star keeps sending various emails with tempting things to go buy, and it's just I have to put it in sort of like my special folder that I've got set up for if I'm in need of retail therapy.
Yeah. I'm pretending I'm not looking here for a while, but then if I'm just like a little bit irritated, I'll buy something and make myself feel better.
What you're basically all explaining to me is I may need to get something else while I'm waiting for the Eureka ones to come through.
I think that's an entirely sensible thing, because you don't want to run out of people to paint white, do you, really?
No.
Or just spray and call them done.
So what other white people should I be doing? Not that we want to get into sort of conversation.
I think at least half of the Austrian infantry would be light.
7 Years' War French.
You could do the Austrians in 10 mil as well.
Yeah, but what do we do after the first half an hour?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Even you're looking aghast at that idea.
Well, it's like, I'll wait for your order of 10 mil British.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe if I buy the 10 mil British, then someone else will be tempted into that one.
This means war.
All right, going around the houses then. Adam, looks like you've got a decent pint there. The sun's shining. What have you been painting? What have you been drinking?
Bottle of Bass.
Still Bass. Oh yes, I remember. Yeah.
Off and on, it's come back. It's still a decent pint for £1, a decent sized bottle. Painting. Oh, I painted a load of goblins for Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, you just started them last week. Yeah.
And for the first time ever, I went full-on ArmyPainter style of the undercoat being a large part of the colouring as well. Because they've got a lot of armour, and I undercoated them black and just dry brushed the armour a little bit of metal to make it look like it's just peering through and washing off. And I've got to say, with the ArmyPainter, I've used it off and on for years. And it's okay. If you want to paint your figures really well, that's not the way to do it. But if you want to paint your figures good enough so someone that doesn't play toy soldiers thinks they're good enough. And the time saving it gave, I'm just so impressed. Because I could paint them better using another style. But they are more than good enough because I don't paint too much during the course of the week because I've got to do other things. But it was just a couple of sessions. And today I put the dull coat on, and it took me not very many hours to do it. So I'm actually really pleased that they just happened. So I might be doing that more often on my theory of, let's just get some stuff done.
Yeah, the ArmyPainter style of painting works really well for the 3-foot range. Paint them, get them on the table, play with them, enjoy them. If you really want to do a schmick job, different ways. But the 3-foot rule, big fan of.
So this is undercoat them and then dry brush them and then ink them?
Yeah, what? So,
what do you do?
You undercoated black though, you're saying? And then
I undercoated it black, dry brushed the armour just a little bit on the edges so the silver was peering through. Then just quickly blocked out the other colours, skin, little bit of dress, weapons, and that was just like not very much of the model. And where it was just blocking it out, bang, 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 that happened really, really quickly. And then I put the slop on, which you've got to be a bit careful and sort of like take it off where it's pooling. But it was all just so quick. Not a way to teach people to paint well, but for getting stuff out. So I'm just doing orders actually now to do a 25mm early Imperial Roman army, and I'm going to use Victrix for that. So I'm going to go full on, undercoat them gunmetal.
Yes.
So that's the armour done.
Undercoating gunmetal. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So it's sort of like all the Lorica segmentatas sort of like done.
Yeah.
And then you've just got to block out the few other bits.
Don't you just get the spray, the metal spray for that?
Yeah, there's a metal undercoat that I'm just going to spray it, so it's like you don't have to touch quite a lot of the figure ever again, and carry on from there.
Coverage, those sprays.
Sorry,
the sprays are quite nice coverage. I find they work quite well.
I mean, for the For the goblins, I just used Halford's Black,
Right.
Which was
That's
kind of
my favourite. That's definitely my favourite for black undercoat.
But
Very
for
good.
but for doing sort of like a metal one, yeah, I'll get the Army Painter one, because with my Russians I use Army Painter Army Green, and that's round about the right shade. Actually, talking of the Romans, for the camp, what I want to do is a palisade and maybe sort of like a couple of tents or two, 25, 28 mil. Any recommendations for
It's
resin
barbecue.
or?
You know, it's summer. It's barbecue time. My palisaded camp is loads of wooden barbecue skewers cut down and
Can't
just
be
to form
asked.
the palisade.
I just want to buy something resin that I can like quickly paint.
I think Boda did something.
Boada.
That's 15 mil though, isn't it, Boada?
Do they do
I think they
25?
might do
I
28.
think we do some 28s.
They
Okay.
do Roman camps.
The
And
for train bits, I think they do 28.
Okay.
Who else? Possibly
Re-
Adrian's
Renedra.
Walls.
Adrian's Walls, yes, you got Adrian's Walls. You've got to look up them just for the name.
I've never heard of them before, but I will do that.
Not Hadrian, Adrian.
Oh,
think it's-
Adrian. You see.
I think it's a bloke from Durham or something. You know, and he's just called Adrian, and he's got a terrain company. I also think
I'm certain I've seen somebody else doing 28 mil sort of palisade bits recently.
I think
remember who it was.
Renendra do the tents, don't they, as well? Just
They
a,
might do
a
tents,
plastic
yeah.
sprue, plastic
Okay.
sprue of tents, which would be quite
Because that's
cheap and
probably what I
cheerful.
want. Yeah.
I think Boda do the tents.
I did as well.
Because
The
I
thing
thought
with,
so I'll give them a look.
Have you had a look at some of the, you know, the stuff that like the MDF card ones? It's like, I think it's Sarissa and a couple of others. There's a whole bunch of those that do some amazing MDF stuff in 28 mil as well now.
What
Yeah,
name?
there's more buildings.
What's it called? Sorry.
More
Sarissa,
bases and
Sarissa-
Precision both do Roman buildings, but I don't know whether they'll do palisades and tents.
Because I'm not sure Palisades would work with MDF, but I'll have a look.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, I
I've
don't think
done,
they do.
like
good stuff.
Foreground may do some.
foreground as well. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. What you could search for as well, there's a 25 mil skirmish game called Gangs of War. And if you
Gangs
find
of
the
Rome,
company,
isn't it? Gangs
of Rome, sorry.
Yes.
And they've got a bunch of the guys who make those rules. They've partnered up with one of the MDF manufacturers, and
Yeah,
they've
that's
made.
Sarissa.
Oh, okay, yeah, and they've got a
I
quite a
think-
good
I
range
think
of
that's probably
random
buildings.
Roman bits. Yeah,
because it's supposed to be sort of like in Rome, so it's going to.
yeah.
I think
But you get little bits as well, so that could be quite cute.
But you could get some good civilians from that range as well if you wanted people lurking around your camp. Because those are all footsore. And footsore stuff's great, really nice.
And
That could be good.
Foundry as well for civilians and odd bits.
Yeah. Yeah, Foundry for casualties as well, if you really want to spend proper money.
Well, I'm probably going to get some casualties, but I was sick because do they do sort of dead barbarians? Because it's bad for morale to have dead Romans lying around.
Foundry,
Yes,
Foundry
I
definitely
think
will do.
Foundry
Yeah.
definitely do.
Okay.
Yeah. If you want to
Yeah,
pay
I've
like
decided
Foundry
that if I'm going to
prices,
use
then
casualties as markers, I'm just going to use it sort of like as the enemy lying around looking dead, because dead Romans just doesn't look good, does it?
No, it's not.
or
it's
you
not
could
right.
get some shields as well. You know, I started off with figures, particularly for 15 mil, but I've kind of drifted more towards shields because they're smaller and cheaper. And certainly in 28 mil, the figures are quite big, and you're spending quite a lot of money on it. But
Yeah,
shields is not a bad
the
thing.
problem with shields, and they might be smaller and cheaper themselves, but I am going to go crazy. And when I do the figures, I'll probably use little big man shield transfers.
Yeah.
Which all of a sudden makes them not very cheap at all.
True. You don't want those on casualty markers as well, do you?
Yeah, no, it's like, oh, Jesus Christ, that's almost as expensive as AB.
No, that'd be frightening. Okay.
The other thing I was going to say about painting is, if for anyone listening, you don't have to do a podcast to do this, but talk to friends and tell them what you're intending to paint in the next week. Because my motivation and my actual getting painting done is in the past 3 or 4 weeks just shot up loads. Because before doing this, I was like, I really should do that. Oh, hang on, cats on YouTube. Whereas now I've said publicly, oh yeah, I'm going to try and get this done in the next week, you've always got that little kick behind you going, go on, do some painting. So for motivation for getting painting done, if you're finding it difficult, tell some friends what you're intending to do, because then you're a lot more likely to deliver.
I've found that as
works.
well.
I can vouch for it.
Yep.
That's what my blog. That's how it kept me going a lot.
Yeah. No,
You've also used Tamsin. You use the challenge a lot of the analog painting competition, that big motivational thing you do over winter, where a whole bunch of you all get behind and churn out tons of lead, which is quite impressive but scary for the rest of us.
Yeah, is that thing through one of those web forums, isn't it? The which forum is it?
Posties.
No, the Analog Hobbies Painting Challenge was run by, started by a Canadian guy, Kurt Campbell, who runs a blog. Yeah, the Analog Hobbies.
Oh, I've heard of that.
He sets up as a painting challenge. So it's been through 10 iterations now.
Okay.
Well, technically, it's on its 11th because with lockdown, he decided to set up a new one, the quarantine challenge.
Okay. No, because I think there's a similar thing on the Wargamers forum where they do like an annual build or something, but that's slightly more veering into model making and stuff. I've seen that sort of idea before, but condensing it down to a weekly peer pressure thing on video is kind of quite effective, isn't it? So just going around. And Simon, so what, other than the fact that we weirdly met each other this week in the real world, but before that, what were you painting? What have you been doing this week?
I've been focusing on painting some of my 7 Years' War Swedes. So I've now got my first 5 units of grenadiers. So guys with cute hats, big rifles, lots of yellow. All the banners are Swedish heavy metal bands, going for proper historical accuracy, and always good fun. And I'm now working my way through the artillery, because you always need more guns. So the QRF miniatures paint up quite nice, especially for their price point. And you have to love 8 figures for £2.50. So that always gets gets your attention, and they ink up well. I use the ArmyPainter, the strong tone in a little what do you call it? Little plastic bottle, yeah, the eyedropper bottle, rather than the old smelly tinned one, and that comes up pretty good. So just churning my way through those.
So that's 31. That's 31p each, isn't it? Was there a sale on, or was that just?
Yeah, they had a sale on. They got down to, it was 20% off sale. And they got down to 20% off £2.50 for 8. I think it was like £2.20 or something like that.
Oh, so £2.50 is the standard price.
I think so. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So if you compare them, say, to Essex, or AB or Ledger Heroica, they're not up there. But for £2.50 or whatever it is, you look at it and go, that's not bad. Okay, sorry, they're £2.70 now for a bag of 8, so they're about £2.40, £2.50. But even so, less than £3 is still pretty good. And yeah, they've got lots of little bit of detail. So once you sand them and just clean them up a bit, the inks go into the cracks quite nicely, so you get they pop out quite nicely.
Cool.
What colour did Swedish coats in the 7 Years' War?
I'm going for just
blue.
Yeah, blue jacket, nice bright yellow. There's a little bit of colour in the cuffs and the ribbons or whatever of the coats, and then the tails are all yellow as well. And then a goldy mitre hat and sort of a buffy colour type of trousers and all that. So you basically see bright blue and this bright yellow coat, all nice line with a gold hat and a big gun pointing at you. So I'll send some photographs around later on.
A few of the Swedish regiments had different facings and underclothes, white and red, but most were blue and yellow.
Yeah, I'm going more because there's a movie that was made a few years ago about the Battle of Poltava, just before the 7 Years' War, and it it looks quite. It's an there were some reenactors where they actually did some of the scenes. I'm not sure if it's for the movie or whatever. And you
Is
see
that a
all
Russian
this.
movie?
Yeah, the Russian one. Yeah, and you
Yeah,
see
it's
all
good.
the Swedish infantry coming down, all in blue and yellow coats, letting rip and all that, and the Russians hiding behind the palisades. It looks quite cool. It's like, I'll paint them.
That's good. Okay, so you because last week you'd done one unit, so now you've done like four more units, and you're deep into the artillery. So you're putting off the cavalry till later.
Yeah, so the cavalry are just being started up now. So I've painted up 6 guns. I've painted up 15 regimental artillery because I needed to fix up a few ones I had done previously. And I've got all the grenadiers. So now it's the artillery crew, and then about 10 units of mounted, cuirassiers, dragoons,
That's a lot.
and a few other ones. So, because you need a few options, and QRF miniatures were open during the lockdown, so you need to support them.
Yeah. And how many mounted figures in a unit for King of the Battlefield?
9.
So King of the Battlefield is each unit is 3 30mm bases with 3 mounted or 6 infantry, give or take, depending on the model for the main line units.
So you've got about 80 cavalry to paint then?
Yeah.
Coming up. Okay. That's good.
But
well,
the Army Painter style works very well.
Yeah.
Brown, there you go.
Well, I must admit, I've had another week of just getting over the finishing line with all those Hungarian horses, which I must admit, again, it's kind of Army Painter plus sort of technique. I think is probably the best way to do it or describe it, because I didn't paint them. I undercoated them white because I just wanted a bit more depth in the colour, and then did all those different horse colours using the coat to arms paint, some of which have run out, and I ordered some more this week from Essex, which have arrived today actually, which is good, very, very quick. But starting with them, then spending a bit of time getting the straps and things done on them, which is a remarkable amount of straps on some of those Hungarian horses, just in a fairly limited colour palette. I'm trying to get a lot of green and red onto them and a bit of blue to make them look sort of Hungarian-y. And then that thing of using dark Army Painter on the lower part of the horse and light Army Painter on the top to really get that sort of darkened legs look. And this is, I'm still really chuffed. It's the first time I've ever really worked hard at doing horses in the thick end of 30 years. I've got old horses which are like brown. They're just brown and with black manes, and I'd never really looked at them. But this I'm really, really chuffed with the way that they've come out and the mix of colours and things like that. And then finished this weekend, I did the white blazes and the socks and the bits and pieces on the noses. And I based them up, did my standard or now standard basing of, so in fact slightly better than my standard basing of building up the bases a little bit to lose the metal base of the figure with some wood filler, some wood filler I've got that the colour isn't that great. Then painted them all brown, so the edges of the bases were consistent as well, and that the colour was thing. Then put sand on top, then did some wood stain. I've got some brand new, my third tin of Rustin's wood dye, dark oak wood dye, which means I must have got through 300 millilitres of this stuff before. And you just kind of get a fairly thick brush and dip it in the wood dye, and then just place it dab it almost onto the sand that you've glued onto the base. It can be dry or it can be a bit damp. And the wood dye is kind of a stain, and it kind of rushes out from just where you've dabbed it down, and sort of, whatever the word is, osmosis or something, capillary action. It just like goes all into the sand and stains the sand a really consistent colour, much darker colour. And then 2 lots of dry brush on. This is an enormously complicated way of doing it, but it's just getting them consistent. A pale grey dry brush and then a pale sand dry brushes to finish it off, before I then do all the grass. And because when you get, I don't know if you find it, when you get close to doing stuff, you want to kind of rush that last bit, and then you make a mess of something. So, and what I always tend to do is I do the grass and do the static grass on in patches, and then I end up varnishing them too quickly, and then I look at them. In fact, I take photographs of them, blow them up to full screen size, and realise there's little bits of grass stuck all over the bloody things that's got caught. Yeah, everybody's nodding at that one. So this time I actually had the self-control to matte varnish with testers the horses before I actually put the static grass on, which is clearly the sensible way to do it if you don't want the grass stuck in the varnish. So I did some testers spray outside. So I'd actually finished all of the horses for this Hungarian army before I'd finished the riders or anything, and I got them all matte varnished. So, for a couple of days I was just staring at this kind of almost an A4 sheet of horses. I think there's about 30 bases of them, a mix of 2s and 3s, that I was just really chuffed with. And now I'm slowly finishing the riders, but at the weekend I got distracted by retrofitting and maybe upcycling some of my older medieval figures, because looking at the army list I realized there was some bits and pieces that I just didn't really have in the ready-made army from Essex. So I kind of upcycled some swordsmen that are kind of, I've got flail, I think they're actually Hussite flail guys, and a few dismounted knights. There's a unit of heavy infantry swords, 2 units of heavy infantry swordsmen in the Hungarian army that I upcycled by just tarting up the shields and giving them kind of another go over. And then one thing, particularly, and this is sort of an ADLG thing, and I remember talking to Dan Hazelwood in the States about this, that one of the nutty things when you look back at it to DBM were armies where you had to, or it was sensible as a game thing, to have 20 bases of horde or more. And you look back, you think, that's mental. Why was I painting 20 bases with 8, 6, 5, 7 people per base, that their whole function was a game mechanic?
Like peasants sort of thing. Rabble.
Peasants, yeah. And there's a mechanic. Well, in ADLG, there's only ever about 2 or 3, and sometimes they don't count to army point. But in DBM, because it was in theory based on history, an army that came with a huge rabble would have 20 bases of horde at a point each in a 400-point army.
Yeah.
So you take these because it would boost your army breakpoint, and actually it was saying, if you spend 10% less on 5% less on real troops, your army breakpoint will be increased by 6 or something. And it was utterly a game level mechanic.
Yeah.
But now I've got like hordes and hordes. I think
was it sponsored by the game manufacturers, the miniature manufacturers or something?
I had a mate of mine in Australia. He did the Million Man Chinese Army in DBM. So I think he rolled up with something stupid like 30 or 50 horde elements, purely for the principle of, bonk, there's 50 elements of horde. Your medieval army equates to 47 elements. Have fun.
Yeah. And just choose for it.
Although, I've got to say, in favour of it, is some armies did rock up with loads of hordes, and DBM gave you a reason for those armies to look more or less as they did.
And I think, I think up to a point that's true. And I think even, if you look at Spartacus, that army, which in age, has a lot of horde but I think there's a difference between armies where they were loads of people of very poor quality and they fought, versus armies where they had a lot of people who, in theory, the army has 500,000 men, but they never actually engaged in combat in any battle in a meaningful way. They were the crowd who stood at the back and cheered, and then they all ran home when the army was finished. So they don't need to be depicted on table to achieve that.
To be honest, Tim, I bought 100 biblical horde figures from Lancashire
Games,
and I got 28 because it was only about £2.
Exactly.
And I got 20 elements of them sat in a drawer, and you can't take that away from me. You can't tell me that it's all for nothing.
Can't take it away from anybody. And I've got exactly the same with these medieval ones that I've put. I can't even remember which army it was for. Was it Low Countries or something?
So
maybe.
Tim,
and I've got
You've got a Spartacus army. It says revolting peasants levy impetuous. 4 to 12 units in ADLG. So have you got a lot of revolting peasants?
I will have when I paint up the Spartacus army, but that's almost the only army with more than 2 or 3 of these things. But
yeah,
but you know, there used to be loads of them. So I've got 20 or 15 of these things in medieval, and they just sat there, and I obviously got bored doing them, and they're not that good. But there's 3 impetuous crusading Christians or something in the Hungarian army that sit near the baggage, and if someone comes to try and eat the baggage, they just lurch at them. So I actually took some figures of, I think they might actually be Merliton figures, actually. Merliton peasants, how ridiculously expensive is that? And I kind of crafted some crosses for them, and made 3 bases of new peasants with the same basing as my Hungarian army, carrying crosses and with some religious icons and stuff, because I thought they're kind of East European, so they're all going to be like icon mad, really. And I did also use, and this is like wheeling back 2 or 3 weeks, you know, we had that discussion about those Swiss pikes I tried to make out of plastic didn't really work. So this time for the crosses, I used the 1mm plastic thing, not the 0.8, and it's way better. It's just like, that's what it was supposed to be. It is kind of bendy and unbreakable, but stays in a proper shape. So I think the 0.8 I did for the Swiss, it's just there's something about that extra 0.2 of a mil that makes those much more robust. So I've got these guys with crosses, and the retrofitting of the other sort of swordsmen. I've printed out loads of these shields or shield patterns and been kind of faffing around with digital editing software, really cheap free stuff, to make little shields that have been stuck onto all these infantrymen. So suddenly what was an old, 20 plus year old set of blokes with big square shields that I was never quite happy with, suddenly have got brand new shields that I haven't gone to Little Big Man. I've just Googled for Hungarian images and Hungarian shields, downloaded them, rescaled them in Microsoft Word to be exactly the right size or a little bit bigger than the shield, glued them on with PVA, then kind of gloss varnished them to give them a sort of solid seal and to lock the colors in. And actually I find the gloss varnish really pings the colors up a bit on the prints out as well with this printer that I've got. So suddenly I've upcycled a load of troops, and I've then spent a long time doing flags the same way, finding a load of online flags that are free and printing them out and sticking it. So I've got a horrible feeling I might have gone too mad, and that literally every single person with a spear or a lance in this army should have a flag on it.
Is this time next week when you find out that colour printer ink was actually worth more than the miniatures?
Look, it came with the printer. We're still at that stage of not having ordered more, but yeah, I think with colour printer ink, I'm looking at.
Cartridges run out, he buys a new printer. So that's cheaper than buying 2 new cartridges.
It is.
That's probably true. That probably is true. But it's the old printer we had was 20 years old or 15 years old. So just the resolution on this new one to print off stuff that is 1.2 centimeters by 0.8.
So you've gone from dot really matrix to laser.
Pretty much, yeah. I don't have the little strips of paper down the side with the holes punched in that you have to rip off, and it's not green and white across it. We're not doing that at the moment, but it was almost like that stage before. So, but soon there will be a whole load of different shields and things like that on display that will take away from my painting. So I think this week the horses should get all their riders finished, and then it will just be into the spearmen. So that's been it. So Dave, you're last up on the group.
Sorry, guys, just before you move on, just to say, if anybody ever needs some biblical horde figures, I've got loads spare. So just let me know.
We might need to talk, because I do have a thing for horde.
Right. In lockdown, you can ship them to people. So, all right. So,
Dave, how many
Dave,
of your mounted figures have you painted as Santa's elves?
Yeah, there's quite a few, because again, going Hungarian, you go big on red and green, and they do look a little bit Santa-ish if they're kind of red. I've tried to avoid the big white cuffs and the red hats as well, but that's why there's lots of flags. It's like reindeer flags or something like that. But so Dave, finally, you're licking a brush. You're looking through a magnifying glass.
I am.
What's the story this week? Is it Egyptians? Is it samurai?
The main story is failing to find a pair of hair clippers.
Right, you as well.
There's a run on them on eBay, I have to say. It's ridiculous. I'm still waiting for that. But no, I'm painting the Egyptians from Fighting 15s. So,
I'm loving the brush. I'm loving the brush sound effect as well. That's really good.
Exactly. Well, it's for real, Matt. For real.
Oh, exactly.
So we're doing the infantry, the medium infantry, whether they're impetuous or impacts, whatever they are. So there's going to be 8 bases of them done and dusted. 1 foot commander's looking good. Pleased with him. And we've undercoated the first lot of many bowmen, I believe, who look quite good. I'm getting quite good at painting flesh.
Okay.
Now a joke could really be had on that one.
Well, exactly. Yeah. So I'm undercoating in whites, and then I'm painting most of the body in flat brown. I'm using, and I'm looking for Tamsin's assistance here. So I'm using a flat brown to sort of do the whole body. Then I'm sort of like doing a
highlight colour for Egyptians.
Well, I'm using this. I'm doing so it's the Vallejo medium flesh tone, which I'm sort of like not dry.
That would be a reasonable choice. Yeah.
Yeah, over a dark brown, over the flat brown comes out quite well.
The medium flesh tone or sunny skin tone over.
Sunny skin tone. No, I don't know that one. Because then I'm using flat fresh for a tiny bit of a highlight at the end. But they're coming out good.
Alternative might be a tan yellow, but
yeah.
But the skin tone's quite pale, isn't it? Quite.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm thinking about. But it's only a tiny bit as a real last highlight. To sort of like just put on the shoulder to give it the sort of muscle definition. But I think
shoulders, cheekbones, noses.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Knees, maybe a little bit of knees. But this is just again, this is going to be another process. By the end of this, I'll know how to paint biblical flesh bodies in mass on them. Chariots, I've got 4 of. I've put one slightly together, but I'm still taking Tim's discussion on that and just wondering how to base them up, and whether they're going to fit on the base at all. But we'll cross that Nile when we get there.
Yeah, it's tricky. I think that might have been something we talked about offline. But the Egyptian chariots historically had really wide wheels, and the axles were a long way from the cab. But if you do that, I just found out you end up with saggy chariots. And it just doesn't work. So unless there's somewhere carving off the actual axle and replacing it with a metal.
Can't you just reinforce it underneath, because you won't be able to see underneath the chariot? So if you just put a piece of bracing underneath the chariot itself, it's then not relying on the axles, because you're never going to look directly underneath it.
Yeah, I've thought about
some of the companies do that now.
Tiny bit of a Zyston spear, little leftover to just stick as a prop. But we'll see. I've got to put one together first and see what it looks like. But I've got plenty of infantry, because I'm going to have to do, I think, I'm going to have 8 bases of 6 swordsmen. And then I've got another 2 bases of elite medium swordsmen. Then there's about 8 to 10 bowmen, I think I'm going to do. So there's plenty of figures to do, and I'm going to mix them up quite a bit. I'm going to make them so some of the bases you can tell are mediocre and some are regular and whatever. So I'm going to have some, and also what I did with another army is make it, because I've got 5 different bags of Egyptian bowmen, whether they're Nubian, unarmoured or armoured. So you'll be able to see which command is which bowman as well.
Okay. So how are you differentiating the regular ones from the impetuous ones, or is it different troop types?
Well, with this Egyptian, New Kingdom Egyptian, it's basically the army I'm doing it for is going to be 8 impact swordsmen. So one commands like 6 of them, and the other one's 2, plus it's a couple of heavy foots. But so they've got the sort of, the sort of, how do you put it? The Bronze Age 2-handed.
That big axe thing.
Weapon, which is a really nice figure. So that you could actually say, right, in this army they're impetuous, So I think these figures will do really well for various, you know, I'm tempted by the Oman and city-states army for some strange reason. I'm thinking these are going to do really well for that army because no one will be able to tell the difference.
So do New Kingdom Egyptian close-foot fighters now count as impact swordsmen then?
Yes, because they're kind of like regular.
Yeah, no, it's just I remember WRG, those spearmen. They're a troop type that seems to have wandered about.
They do wander around quite a lot.
Yeah, they used to be spear, but now they're a more get in and give you a kicking type troop.
But
definitely.
The New Kingdom Army's got a lot of different options. So you can have 6 sea peoples who are impetuous elites, I think, and things like that. So, you know, there's a lot of different options in that army. So I think that's one way of using that army is going to be interesting because your opponent's not going to know which form you've bought it in, which can sort of compensate for using a lot of medium infantry.
Okay, all right. And anything else, or has it just been 100% Egyptian then?
No, it's Egyptians. That's what we're doing. That's going to be it for the moment. The samurai are well and done, dusted. Scythians are dusted. So the entire 10 weeks of lockdown has been a Scythian army, a samurai army, getting on for this now. So I'm pretty pleased with that.
And a handful of camels somewhere in week 7 or something.
The camels are pretty done and dusted. But then that's the Oman city-states army.
So you knew you were doing that before you even bought the Egyptians.
There's method to that. There's a morph in there which I think is going to bring out an army which people don't see and don't use. Which will be a bit of a laugh.
And are you still tanking away at the Heffersteiner on the beer front?
Yeah, still doing that.
It's very Chaz as well as a morph.
What?
It's very Chaz as well as a morph.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
There's a Chaz. And on that note, I think that probably wraps up the painting session for this week.
This means war.
Right, well, having done the painting section, we're now into the gaming section, the actual shoving lead around. But by the looks of it, and from our kind of quick chat, this seems to have been a week in which all of us have kind of struggled to do too much in the actual on-table gaming. But we're all now starting to look ahead to I believe, kind of an online competition that starts. I think it actually starts today officially on Tabletop Simulator for ADLG on that Facebook group. And then some of the other competitions, we're into June, but that's another month, that's another start. Lockdown in the UK is, in theory, being gradually eased. We've got real shops opening in a couple of weeks and things like that. So it's not beyond the wit of man to look into the future and think when competitions may well restart as well. So I think I'm just trying to think what's likely to be the first competition to come round again when things actually open up.
I think it's going to be, if we're lucky, the first one is we've got the Portugal competition for international travellers, 5th and 6th of September. Please hoping. If not, the London GT, the 26th and 27th of September.
That's an interesting shout, isn't it? That's June, July, August. That's 4 months, isn't it?
September is probably the earliest because summer's going to be a wash. But the government, I'm getting the sense that the government's decided that schools are going to go back in September properly, and so the sort of like the lockdown, even though it seems to have over now, to be honest, I think officially they're going to be saying September is probably, it'll be by September before things are getting back to normal, unless we get the second peak, which would be exciting.
Yeah. So I get, let's epidemic, that disease thing kind of slightly aside, because I guess we could go down that particular rabbit hole, but September sort of feels end of September and then into October. What's next? We've got, I think, rescheduled campaign, is it?
We've got campaign is scheduled for the 17th and 18th of October. Then the week after, the 24th and 25th of October is roll call.
Roll call rescheduled, yeah.
Yep, and then we've got a few weeks off till the 14th and 15th of November. That's warfare, and that's it so far. that I'm aware of.
Okay.
As your secretary for BHGS calendars.
Yeah, okay. And planning hotel accommodation and things like that. So that's actually, there is some of those that feel like they should be doable, doesn't it? Whether we'll all be playing in masks or something like that. Because I think campaign, we were all kind of almost geared up to roll call. We were all starting to be geared up to do it. Although I think in my list checking world, I'd not received that many lists, even though it was kind of a few weeks out. It wasn't being done. And then Tabletop Simulator this week is in the process of starting a kind of friendly ADLG league. I'm signed up. Andy, we've had a game. Peter, we've had a game. I know Dave.
Did they ever email you back? Because I think I emailed them to say I'm interested. And I don't know. I heard anything back. So whether you got a response or not. Yeah,
I think they've now the Italian guys have set up an online web form that you put your name in, and then you're able to volunteer to play.
Do you want to post that
it's
on
kind
the
of a bit,
ADLG forum, because otherwise it's not the easiest
some people
thing to
see
find.
it. That's true, actually. Yeah, I'll see if I can.
On Facebook.
Yeah, well, it's via Facebook, but I can find that. So here's the actual group there. So so this is the list of armies which they've already created. They've made their ancient Bedouins, Dave. Is that the one you're looking at, ancient Bedouin? Or is that a different one?
Oman and city states, but that's another story.
Okay.
But
So
you
you've
do
got
Carthaginians, Dave.
Alexander.
Oh, I can do my medieval Germans, one of my favorite armies.
Yeah.
I think with medieval, you can do pretty much anything, generic late medieval. With Alexandrian and Seleucid, you can do any successor thing. Republican Roman, with a bit of a squint, you can do any of the early Romans as well.
Romans
and then all the barbarians with Gauls, Spanish, and Dacians, I think they're the same thing.
I could practice my campaign army with the Gauls.
No, that could be it. That definitely could be it. And the Germans coming in as well. So here's the tabletop friendly league. So it's just sign in on. Let's just see. Open this extra site here. So you sign in. You just put your details in.
It prompts you for a name on an ADLG website. I'm not sure what that is.
No, that's your player number, isn't it? I think. So
your international number, Andy.
Yeah.
Oh, they're looking for a number. Oh.
Yeah, your international number. So
you are a name, not a number.
Yeah, you put your name in, email address, which country you're from, and then your player number, and then you can start to arrange friendly games. And I think they have set it up like we used to do our club competition, which is anyone can play anybody, and the best handful of results count. And I think first month starts now, and they're using those early lists up to 125 Byzantine, up to 125. So just before the Dark Ages. So realistically, anything you can cobble together out of that. And I think definitely, I think we've actually got some chillier, wetter weather coming in this weekend. So it might mean that we all get more gaming time.
I think I think someone's just put ancient Germans up as well.
Okay, yeah, Germans are in there as well. Yes, that's been
you can really do a lot of different armies with ours.
Yeah, well, look at those Dacians and the barbarians. It's grand.
For those of us who used to use Facebook.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. I'll copy something over onto the ADLG forum then and see what people can do. So has everybody got...
Andy, I'll give you that game I owe you.
That could be it. So has everybody here got Tabletop Simulator yet? Is that?
I'm just buying it right now.
Buying it as we speak.
I'll play Andy first, then I'll play you.
Okay.
Well, we'll set up some games then and get that sorted. I think.
I'm amazed you didn't have it already, Simon.
It's been one of those things of I haven't had the brain power to deal with it. So
they haven't done any feudal ones though, so you can't do the sort of impetuous Norman Knights type thing.
I think maybe give them another month. If the first month of this this thing is classical,
medieval German army, and rename a knight as impetuous knight, then it's pretty obvious what it is.
Actually, that's true. If there's some unarmored horses, you could probably cobble together an army yourself. Because most of those are just.
I was looking at that,
knights.
and I couldn't really find anything that repurpose as well.
But you just rename them, and when you roll over on the table, you can see that it's not. Because when you rename them, it tells you what they are. It'll say impetuous knights
I know, but I want them to look good as well.
Yeah, I agree.
I want them to look stylish when I stomp your army down.
Peter,
I think
you could make them look golden.
Yeah.
You can actually. You can change the shades on it.
But I think you can actually copy them from Tim's Madaxeman wiki page. You can actually take pictures of figures and put them on top of the toys.
Really? Oh, right. Well, that's a level of technology that I've not yet managed to.
I haven't got that geeky yet.
I could see some fun of, those medieval pikemen look like Landsknechts. Don't ask any questions.
That could be anything, couldn't it? All right. Well, maybe that's our objective then for this
18th
week.
century Austrians.
Yes, 18th century Austrians or Swedes. And let's try and get onto that and play some games against both each other and some random strangers from around the world. We'll have a virtual worlds, but with less drinking and less swimming pools involved.
How's this for an idea?
Whoa. What's this less drinking thing?
Less?
Okay.
Why?
Yeah. No,
sorry, more drinking, less social drinking, less socially integrated drinking.
I just had an idea. When we pick an army list at the end of the week and we talk about it next week, what about getting the two players, if they got the time, to fight each other using those lists on Tabletop Simulator?
But we only pick one list though, don't we?
Yeah. So, for example, you have something on Fatimid. So, in theory, what you do is you choose your Fatimid list, she uses hers. You talk about it next week, but in the meantime, you have a battle between you to see how it goes.
Okay, that's it. That's adding a layer of complexity, and there also isn't any Fatimid troops. But if we pick one of the earlier lists by accident out of our random.org, maybe that is an idea. We could actually play the real game online. Yeah, that would be an extra digital online real world integration malarkey complicated
match of the day or match of the week or something.
It sounds like we could end up
get
with
the theme tune in. It's all good. It's all good. But I think that's a very good moment to look forward and move into the list comparison bit, which I think is myself and Tamsin both looking at Fatimid Egyptian. This slightly odd one of the many Arab lists that is frustratingly, irritatingly not quite as obviously good as some of the other ones, despite having loads of good bits in it, I think was the way I found it.
Yeah, that was how I found it too.
Yeah, you just go, what does this list bring that you would pick another one because it just does more stuff, but this one, let's jump straight into it. And so Tamsin, I think this is your list. Do you want to talk us through it, and I'll kind of sit back and let everybody else ask the questions?
Yeah, I think looking from all the sort of discussions over previous weeks, I went for one very strong cavalry wing that will be for attack, turn a flank, and then hopefully roll over. Another weaker cavalry wing to hold them up on one flank, and an infantry centre. And I was looking at the list, suddenly realised, yes, you don't have elite shooty impact heavy cavalry, so you need to do the best with what there is. And you're limited by, in the Fatimid list, you're limited by how many heavy cavalry you can make elite. So for one wing, I had the Fatimid cavalry, so you got 4 Mamluks, heavy cavalry bow, with 2 Syrian lancers and 2 Turkoman light cavalry bow. I might have actually put that, thinking about it, I might have gone potentially, if I changed it, that wing, I might go with 2 Mamluks and 4 Syrians. But that's how I've done it.
Tamsin, it's really good because I think if you've got the terrain down one side of the table, you can use your second command with your bowman just to hold a piece of terrain. You've got 5 infantry all shooting, so that's a really significant amount there. You've got a competent general who can move the light cavalry impact on his own. And then you've got a horde of cavalry, which are all elite, which are going to play the game in the centre of the table. So I think I like that army.
Yeah, it was, going on. Because of one wing, Fatimid cavalry, the other wing, I took the Syrian ally. So I could maximise the elite because if you're going with all cavalry on a wing, you want to make them elite just so that it will count. Admittedly, it reduces the army size, but still got 20 units, so it's not too bad. Good initiative. Yeah, I did that with light cavalry. For the infantry centre, I added 2 Bedouin light cavalry impact. So because I don't need light cavalry infantry light skirmish because I've got so many bowmen anyway. But I have light cavalry impact. Can either take out enemy light infantry or act as reinforcements on one or other of the cavalry wings.
Oh, that's interesting, actually. That's 2 wings. That's a lot of elite troops mounted on both wings. There's what, 9 elite heavy cavalry there, which is immense, isn't it? That's really serious amounts of stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
I'd be inclined, I think, to swap out one of the Mamelukes for a Syrian Lancer on the heavy wing, because I just don't think 2 Syrian Lancers is big enough, not punchy enough. I don't think.
That was my concern. I was either changing it to either doing 3 and 3 of the Mamluks and Syrian Lancers, or your other bit was going 2 Mamluks, 4 Syrian Lancers. But
well, what's the role of that thing? Is it going to be shooting or hitting? Because I'm not convinced that heavy cavalry bow elite actually do huge amount of damage, particularly if there's foot guys with bows around.
It depends. I mean, with all the Arab lists, you don't see a lot of Arab lists because the danger is they're going to be fighting knights, whether it's Crusader knights, and knights will always tend to swamp. But if it's played in period and the knights aren't heavy armoured knights, then the Mamluks will more often than not hit the knights in shooting. So it depends on the shooting, I think the Arab lists suffer in ADLG because they don't have quite as much hitting power as the opponents they come across. So we went to a competition in Spain, the one we went to, which was Cross and Crescent, and it was all Byzantine armies and, as for another word, Frankish armies, knight armies, and very few Arab armies, because the Arabs tend to suffer with the knights.
Admittedly, knights as an opponent are my main concern.
Yes.
But going with elite heavy cavalry helps mitigate that to a degree.
Yeah, if it's medium knights, you've still got, what did we say, 9 elite heavy cavalry. That's a lot.
You need to have a lot of shooting to deal with medium knights.
I think it depends on the theme, because if you can bring heavy knights, who's going to bring medium knights to a heavy knight fight?
I think that's one of the implicit assumptions about this. We have to work on the assumption that it's in a sensible theme.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I think I'd quite happily bring a load of medium knights to this. Because the problem is you're going to have only so far, because it's only heavy cavalry bow and not impact. The heavy cavalry bows suffer when it's up against knights or anything of that nature, because if you don't get the hits in, you're running. And if you do get the hits in, you can't then follow through and use the impact. You've got these lancers, but that's 2 of them. I'd happily take on this. I'd have taken maybe the late Crusader allies instead of the Syrian allies, because you're almost doubling down on what you've got before.
Yeah.
Well, we haven't seen Tim's list yet.
I think one other thing I would have done differently, if the the lighter mounted command, if that was going to be your occasional skirmish command, skirmish outer wing, if it's outnumbered, the lancers can't evade. So having the skirmishy wing of all skirmish evade capable troops might have been more useful, and putting the lancers and the impact all in one command might have been handy, because the Syrian lancers, if you get them forward, they're kind of there.
Yeah, I would typically be holding that wing back.
Mm-hmm.
As an allied wing, any case they're going to be, they might roll unreliable. So they might
come onto them, yeah.
So it might be so you just make sure that Turkmens are out front, as far as they can go. I trigger them, but you keep the lancers back until you've delayed, until your shooty cavalry have done some damage.
But Tamsin, that wing has only got 3 shooty cavalry, of which only 1 is light. So, that's not going to hold much back for very long.
Yeah.
No, but
it's going to slow them down. Slow them down by being there.
I think with this army, you're using the medium infantry, hopefully with the terrain to hold one side of the table.
Yeah.
Then you're using the Mamluks with the brilliant general to come forward, pin, shoot, hopefully drop some opponents' cavalry down damage way. The ally, which you're going to position so the opponent has to make it reliable. That's just going to crash in. And I think the Syrian Lancers, one of them, I'd have that as the included general. And I'd go, right, that's going to crash in and hopefully do some damage. And if it doesn't, all right, well, never mind. I like having 1 included general with some impact cavalry and things like nice.
This means war.
So over to my list then. It's got a similar sort of feel to it. It's got all the same elements, but in a different mix. I think with this one, again, I've again put the bowmen and the Abid together, but I kind of see them very much not necessarily as a rough terrain force. So I've got 2 Abid and 2 Armenian bowmen. I kind of see them supporting a slightly cheaper mounted thing. I see them working very closely with the mounted, possibly a bit more on a flank. And this is an army that doesn't really have an infantry centre. So 2 of the mixed spearmen, 2 elite heavy cavalry bow. I know they're not Andy's favourite troop type, but I just like them being. I always find the impact ones I'm happier with ordinary, because if they win in impact, they win in impact and they win big. And the heavy cavalry bow are the ones that tough it out and they shoot and they fight and they keep going. So I've still got 8 in that first command, but it's just I've squished all the infantry and the heavy cavalry bow to operate together with a brilliant general in that one. I think Dave's idea of the competent included general in this central command, I'm a big fan of medium cavalry impact. I just think they're quite good value in a wide, big cavalry command. You can, because the impact, they'll go in and be okay against most things. On a flank, they're super good. One of my favourite troop types, which is much cheaper, is mediocre medium cavalry impact, which are super cheap and you can get just buckets of them, and they do get around people's flanks. So this is again a similar-ish command. 3 impact cavalry, 1 heavy, 2 medium, no elite Mamluks in this one, and a light cavalry, as well with impact to make that a faster command. And then again, a very similar command to Tamsin's on the end, but this one is all shooty. So it's 2 normal Mamluks, ordinary, 2 elite Mamluks, and then a Turkoman elite. So you've got a kind of holding command which has got 4 shooters and a light horse, 4 heavy cavalry shooters and a light horse, of which there's a chunk of that one. You've got a more punchy one with 3 lancers, but they are a little bit lightweight, 2 of them medium, and a couple of Mamluks and the Bedouin, and then that command at the start which has got blocks of 4, so 4 cavalry, 5 cavalry, 4 cavalry, and then using the bow as kind of a support piece, rather than lumping them all in one command. So it's kind of using the command points slightly differently to create, particularly with that first command, one of these commands that does 2 different things, rather than one which does one different thing.
How do you think this would get on against either, say, Normans in Sicily with a horde of medium knights coming at them, or someone like Ghaznavid, which is another popular list?
Happily.
Well, I think Normans in Sicily, you are trying to get a very, very open table, and you are really, you're looking at the 4 medium foot is the only thing that isn't super mobile, and I think you're almost accepting that those 4 medium foot are ultimately in trouble, and maybe you try and use the medium spearmen to. In fact, I think I had a game at the Worlds last year in Italy against it was more of a heavy medieval army with a very similar army to this. And I tried using the Abbid to kind of, if you can tempt the knights to charge the Abbid, because they will go down, it then buys you time for the rest of those cavalry to get around the flank of the knights. But you've got to have real huge discipline not to try and take the knights on frontally. You've really got to peg it for the wings and the flanks, and try and get a completely open table such that the knights are, how many's a lot of knights? 8, 9, 10 maybe, but that's still only a third of the table covered, and you're trying to just use it as a Mongol army with trying to move those Abbid as quickly as they can to try and pick on the light horse. So it is tough against knights. You're playing it as a Mongol army, and you've got this unfortunate anchor of 4 medium foot that stops you being pure play, completely fly around the table Mongol. I think Ghaznavid, you are again doing that sort of self-discipline thing of trying to avoid the Death Stars, because once the Death Star part of the Ghaznavid is a lot of their points, and then the rest of it is not going to be blocks of 4 or 5 heavy cavalry. So you're trying to pick on the heavy cavalry and possibly feed the bowmen to the Death Star, or just try and sit back and have the discipline not to take it on. And I think sometimes with
19 as well, you just have to avoid the Death Star and pick off. When Iñaki uses the Ghaznavid, he's incredibly disciplined that he cannot lose any of his cavalry supporting it, because then his army is, if he loses 2 of the supporting cavalry, his army is in trouble. So if you just entertain the Death Star, just even offer your camp to the Death Star and then go after the rest of his army, you can beat it. That's how you have to beat it.
And I think sometimes with armies like this, if you've got literally nothing that can take on the enemy's best, elephants or infantry or strike foot, you haven't got a chance of doing it here, which forces you to avoid him. I always used to fall into the trap of going, okay, that's their best troops, these are my best troops, let's have a go.
Yes.
But this, you've actually got nothing you can put up against that. So you are absolutely forced into playing the game as a Mongol army and using those Abbid to support the cavalry, and just try and avoid other stuff.
I played Normans in Sicily at Worlds and took on something like this, and I had 12 knights bearing down on him by end of turn 2.
Yeah.
And it went very nicely. So that's the problem. Unless you get the terrain, or the lack of it, it's really, and you're a player that can actually get up to the wings, you're going to get pinned and pinned very quickly. I like some of the Arab stuff. I've painted it up. It's almost like you've almost got to double down. And I think the medium stuff is almost like a distraction. It's go all horse, as you say, and use that as almost like cloud technique with, a whole bunch of the lights. You can go heavy with the light cavalry, javelin, for example. But it's a hard one to play because it's also having the command points to maneuver the troops around.
I think, to be fair to Tim and Tamsin, for the question, how would you deal with X, Y, and Z? The honest answer is, I wouldn't choose Fatimid Egyptian.
Yes.
Yeah.
In ADLG, even in the themes, you just don't. It's one of the only weaknesses I've found in ADLG, that the Arab armies really do suffer because of the scissors, paper, stone of fighting the Frankish Western troops is a real problem for them.
I think this particular list, where you have to have the medium spear and bow, I think this is even more shackled than perhaps other Arab armies.
Yes. I agree with that.
Yeah, I think that's it. Having 4, the 2 bowmen in this slightly later period and the early ones it's just too many, really. I think 2 Abids you can live with. Even if those other 2 Armenian bowmen were 2 heavy infantry spearmen, that's a little anchor that can sit there and have some stodge. But 2 bowmen and 2 mixed bowmen is just starting to be quite a lot, really. But I think for some reason I did toy with it. I don't know if Tamsin, you looked at this, about whether there's actually a lot of impetuous and impact medium foot in this army. And I kind of thought, is there an earlier version that's kind of a quasi, comedy Roman thing with loads of auxilia, but and using the cavalry as support? But
did someone try that at Worlds? Just have a load of medium infantry to overwhelm them?
I don't know, not somebody I played, but it's just a different way of doing it. Part of me was just writing this list thinking, am I trying to make a better Arab list with something that's not as good as that, when actually what this list does well is hordes of impact medium foot and De Lame and the rest of it, and you might as well just go big on that and try and surprise someone in terrain. But
I did actually
otherwise
think about the Sudanese medium swordsman.
Yeah.
Also the Syria phalanx, the heavy spearmen.
If you're fighting a competition we played at Derby one year and it was quite tightly themed, so the Arab armies were viable and there weren't so many of the medium knights around, and I took a De Lame army and it worked wonders. It was fantastic fun because you're combining the Mamluks with very quick moving infantry, so you can go forward and pin troops with the Mamluks who can then evade, but then you get round behind troops with the medium infantry. But again, you can't, if the knights are around, it's a real problem.
Yeah, I suppose if you go the slightly earlier one, then you don't need the 2 Armenian bowmen, but you lose the Turkoman light cavalry, and you lose the light cavalry impact, and you swap them out with some light cavalry javelin.
You also
lose the medium cavalry impact.
The allies.
Yeah, neither of you liked the Crusader allies then.
No, I just thought it was going to be too expensive.
I don't like it.
It was just going to be too expensive to get not enough knights, and it would change the army away from being a kind of quasi-Mongol army. I just thought, maybe if we're talking about in this whole thing of if you're going to do it, go big, maybe there is an argument. Maybe I've tried too hard to get in medium cavalry impact just because I've got some really nice figures for them. I like using them, but they're not mediocre, and that does make them a bit expensive for their cost.
I mean, you could have a fun, crazy army with this. As Townsend was saying, you have the Sudanese warriors, medium swordsmen, impetuous, and they're just going to run forward and spoil anybody's day. Stick some light infantry javelin in front of them to take any hits with shooting and get them stuck in. If anyone's got any infantry, they're going to go storming through. So, especially in period, there's a lot of people who are going to have spearmen, for example, as a sort of a sop to cavalry, and you just have them storming forward as quickly as possible.
And the De Lame as well. A couple of De Lame, you've got a pretty pokey infantry force to hit someone else's spearmen.
I wouldn't bother with the De Lame. They're very expensive. I'd just have the medium sword impetuous.
Go heavy on the Mamluks, not elite even, to pin, shoot and entertain and evade any enemy cavalry, and just go with a big infantry command to wallop into any enemy infantry. And then
because a lot of people have a few spearmen in this period, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah, medium swords, two-handers with mace. That's always good for a laugh.
Yeah.
So if we're staying in France, the French love to go with the Crusader army, even with Richard de Leonhardt as a strategist, and they like to have a big cavalry command and then a big infantry command. And you
Sorry, Dave, can you just do your French accent again, please?
Richard de Leonhardt.
That is rubbish.
Yeah, I think we're almost there.
Pierre de Lyon.
All right. Well, I think we've kind of almost invented a new version of this, and I think part of the joy of this is that this is picking slightly problematic lists, and we've all agreed that this is slightly problematic. But I think we're at that point at which to go round the the window of people and say, you know, which of these two slightly shackled lists for the post 1074.
We're not going to have a tie this week.
We're not going to have a tie this week. So if I start down the top, so Andy, of these two lists, that one's mine, and then this one's Tamsin's. Which one would you vote for on this one?
I think Tamsin's. I think it's better balanced. I think the infantry is an accident waiting to happen. So the less of it you've got, the better, really.
Okay, right, nice and clean. Dave, what do you think?
Tamsin's, because her verse version was illegal.
But assuming my version was legal, what would you think then?
So yours is now legal. So Tamsin's anyway, because I think you can tie down one wing with the medium foot. There's a lot of bowmen in that medium foot command. As long as you got the terrain, that can hold it down and give the other two commands maneuver room and time to get stuck in.
Okay. Adam, what about you?
I don't know. I've had a couple of bottles of beer. Which one would I have to think less while I was using it?
Tamsin's.
I think if that's the criteria, that may be the answer. It's each command does what it does, doesn't it?
Okay, yeah, Tamsin's then, brilliant.
All right. Simon, over to you.
For me, I'd go Tamsin's list as well.
Oh, it's a what? It's a what?
For me, I like the aggressiveness of Initiative 4. So you could choose to either defend in terrain to annoy somebody if you wanted to, like you could go get the wrong type of terrain for your opponent, or you could then be on their side on the table in turn 1. So that is quite nice. And the fact that there's quite a lot of impact and a lot of elite, you're going to get a result. There's going to be no drawing. So one way or the other, you're going to be in the pub in about an hour.
That makes sense. And then
Sounds good to me.
And Peter, other than your choice of I would take something with a load of knights, which isn't allowed, what do you think?
So can I just look at your now legal list?
Yeah, this one. Let's look at this one now.
Right. You see, I am leading towards this because Tamsin one, I could actually catch it out quite, I'd be looking to catch it out as I think Adam and a couple others were saying about the heavy cavalry. You've got some really nice heavy cavalry elite impact mixed in with a bow in Tamsin, and I think they could get caught out. With this one, you've got a bit more of a mix with one unit, which is basically the run, shoot, and evade, which I quite like and I've used quite nicely just to tie down an opposition. And I like the mix in the first one. Now it's legal that the bowman and the spearman can actually support each other going up. And if anyone wants to just straight try and charge the bowman, like medium foot or anything else, you've got the cavalry to then go in and hit there. So I've seen that used effectively by better people than me. So I'd probably go for that one because it's got the variety. I'm just not sure of the mix of the middle command. I'd probably change it a little bit.
Yeah, no, I think talking about it, I'm leaning towards Tamsin's myself as well, but I'm not allowed to vote. So I think that's a comprehensive 4-1 for Tamsin's list there.
This means war.
Okay, then. So before we wrap that one up, then for next week, Simon, you're the computer king. The keys, something's happening. So could you tell us what random.org is throwing us list-wise next week?
Please hold caller. The number is. List 86. What is that?
86.
Late Imperial Roman.
Oh, yes.
Oh, it's a classic. It's a proper...
we've got to go some Romans, don't we?
Late Imperial, the proper square shields and the rest of it.
All hail Caesar.
We might even be able to
the Roman list, that's for sure.
So
they on the oval shields, rather than rectangle.
I agree. Oval.
They got oval shields, yeah.
Oh, fine. Overly squarey ones, a bit half and half. Okay. So does anybody want to volunteer for this one? Anybody got this burning a hole in their Roman pocket.
I think I won a competition with
Adam,
late
you're
Imperials.
painting it up as we speak, almost. So I think you have to be dragooned into doing this one.
Yeah, because I haven't
you're
actually
painting up some Romans right now.
Yeah.
And Andy, I guess you just spent. No, you spent lots of slightly dark age barbarians. How about an Andy against Adam face-off then?
Yeah, right.
What, me?
Are you telling us we're in AA?
Yep, AA.
Exactly.
We have an
AA
versus
an AA Roman face-off for next
So
week.
I would quite happily do the late Romans, but has anyone not had a go yet?
Me.
Everybody's had a go, haven't they? Oh, it's just Andy. Sorry.
You're on again.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're round again.
Yeah.
I'll send you photographs of my Lego Heroica figures to give you inspiration.
Or how not to do them.
Yeah.
Nah, they're really, really good.
So we're now into the second week. It's managed to live again. It returns the Teaching Timmy About Napoleon theme tune and the Teaching Timmy About Napoleon concept as well, as we go into our special Learning About the Napoleonic Wars new section. It's good to have two different theme tunes, isn't it? As well as the main theme tunes. That's three different bits of music that we're chugging along. If we add any more features, we'll end up with more music than nonsense chatter, really. So,
but the music is so good; it's well worthwhile.
It rocks out, doesn't it? I'm sure people are dancing around their paintbrush pots or something like that, even as we speak. So I think last week we'd done. If I'm trying to remember my newfound educational expertise and knowledge of the Napoleonic Wars, so people had their heads cut off. Lots of royal people were gone, and in a spirit of phenomenal egalitarian fervour, this army of normal people, because all the posh people were riding cavalry or something, had sprung into life and become egalitarian about the way it actually appointed soldiers, which was a radical new development for everybody. The rest of Europe, which was about 1 million different countries at the time, had thought, that must be a shambles, let's have a bit of it. They'd all piled in. The French had surprised everybody by being very, very effective through the use of the word egalitarian yet again, if I'm wishing to be repetitive, and started kind of giving everybody a bit of a battering. And they were on the front foot. Some little bloke had been promoted from artillery captain, and then the English had decided that because this was all going so well for everybody else in Europe being beaten roundly by the French when they thought it was going to be a walkover, they would try and steal the French Navy in Toulon and landed there and were getting a bit of a bloody nose, I think, partly because it was sort of near northern Italy. Is that a summary of last week's episode? What year are we up to?
Kind of, yeah. Well, today's the 1st of June, which is the anniversary of a battle, surprisingly called the glorious 1st of June. And if you're the Royal Navy, you reckon it was a big victory because they captured a number of French ships. But I reckon the French
Toulon thing. Is this the Toulon thing? No, different.
No, this was afterwards.
Yeah. Okay. So we're skipping over the Toulon thing.
Yeah. Toulon.
That was a minor incident.
Yeah.
Minor incident. Okay.
Right. Okay. So France, the harvest failed, so they had to buy a whole load of grain from America. And there was this convoy of 300 ships carrying grain to France. And if the British intercepted it, France would probably starve and there'd be riots and it would all go tits up. But the Royal French Navy got in the way. Is
there a French version of that? Could you do?
I've never heard of this in my entire life. Carry on.
No, I was just expecting you to go tits up in a French accent.
No, I haven't got a clue about this. This is all as much news to me as it is.
Okay.
It's a naval expression.
We've changed from a war fighting thing to kind of a agrario-economic naval blockade game, right? Okay.
Yeah, so basically the French Navy took a battering and lost a few ships, but the convoy got through to France and the revolution continued. So arguably, even though the British won the battle, they failed to stop the revolution when they had a good chance. Anyway, moving on, because there's loads of stuff we could talk about. In 1796, Napoleon's made commander in Italy. And the French army in Italy...
Okay. So
the French are fighting everywhere.
He's in Italy, just because, but they're everywhere else as well.
Yeah, they're fighting the Piedmontese and the Austrians. The Austrians are also got a main army north of Switzerland fighting in Germany, kind of area.
They're all painted in white. They're all wearing white uniforms, even at this stage.
Indeed, yeah, and silly helmets. Yeah,
and the French are eating a lot of bread because they've got a lot of grain.
They're not silly helmets. They are cool helmets.
They're in helmets at this time.
Austrians are, yeah. They got cool helmets with sort of like crest thing going on. It's cool.
What, like the pickle helm thing?
They're like the Keystone Cops firemen, basically, I think. Okay. But anyway, so Napoleon's got this army which has not been paid, not been properly led. They're all a bit packed off. And he basically does an inspirational speech and says, "Follow me, guys. I'll make you all rich and famous." And they do. And he manages to completely beat the Piedmontese. And over the course of about a year, he chases the Austrians off and eventually is marching on.
So was beating the Piedmontese like a big achievement? Because, I'm not, my limited military knowledge, I don't remember them figuring massively.
With the total lack of troops he had, yes.
And also they had the terrain, and he was hemmed in a very unfavourable face for fighting.
And they had forts, and he was fighting basically along some narrow pass, and basically had a sort of storm force of troops where he'd roll the cannons up close, blow the forts away to get through.
He crosses the Alps like Hannibal and has his famous painting of him by David.
But that was later, Dave.
Oh, was that a different one?
Yeah.
Can I just check? Beating the Piedmontese, that's not some sort of euphemism?
No.
No, nothing you do in a narrow pass with big cannons.
On the south coast, you might be a different meaning. I don't know, but it's not what I mean by it. No.
Okay.
And fine wine.
So Napoleon's in Italy. He's beating up a country that barely existed at the time, and they were all hiding in forts, and he was an artillery captain. But this is a great achievement.
Well, he's now a brigadier general.
And he's promised people loads of stuff through a great speech that he wrote the history of afterwards, I imagine, which it's now retrospective. So he's stuck in northern Italy, and then the Austrians come over the ski, chalets.
No, the Austrians were helping the Piedmontese. They had the French hemmed in the sort of northwest corner of Italy, and Napoleon managed to break out, knock the Piedmontese out of the war, and then drove the Austrians back. And he ran up against some major problems in about the Lake Garda area because the Austrians had this 4 fortresses called, surprisingly, the Quadrilateral. And unless you captured all of these, you weren't going anywhere further. And one of the forts, Mantua, gave Napoleon serious problems, and it was besieged for months, and he had to give up the siege and lose his siege guns and come back again. And the Austrians launched about 3 different rescue missions to try and relieve the siege. And eventually Napoleon saw them off at the Battle of Rivoli in the beginning of 1797, and was then heading towards Vienna.
It's like a 3-year period in which Napoleon crept just along the northern Italian valleys and stayed in the
1
lakes.
year.
1 year, okay.
To summarise, it wasn't 3 years, it was 1 year. The summary is France was doing really, really badly in Italy. Napoleon got appointed to command in Italy, and he rolled the Austrians out of Italy in under a year, which is something that nobody thought would ever happen. His job wasn't to roll the Austrians out. His job was to desperately hold on. And rather than desperately hold on, he rolled them out of northern Italy and advanced into Austria. It was just shouldn't have happened. It was brilliant.
It's also
military stuff.
He had the shittiest troops in the French army as well.
Whoa.
So this was basically the army which was just, we'll put all the dross down there. They just need to be the horde there to stop them coming. They're not expected to attack. A load of dross. That's why he has to do the motivational speaking and everything else, promising them money.
And where was the good bit of the army fighting then?
Germany.
The French.
Germany. Against all these weird little German countries that weren't really countries. And they all had their own different flags and stuff.
Yeah.
And that was a bit of a wash, was that? Or was there stuff, was somebody winning there? Or...
Yeah, it kind of went backwards and forwards.
Marching and counter-marching against each other.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Napoleon's taken this load of old rubbish. He's given them a good speech. He's swept them out of northern Italy. He's got to the really nicest part of northern Italy, the lakes, all that kind of stuff. He's got some romantic castles. Is there that woman thing going on yet? Did he take her to these castles? What's Josephine? That's the word I'm looking for.
Not yet, no.
Not yet.
Not yet. No Josephine sort of scenarios. And so he's then leaving up there and going to Vienna because that's
so he's become the national hero because the Austrians throw the towel in before he can get to Vienna, and so Napoleon is the national hero in France because he's caused the Austrians to give up.
So he's off to Vienna, but if that whole kind of giving up, so we'll stop thing doesn't tend to happen in war, does it? Was he just like he gave up and he took over Vienna? Did they give it away? Or
no, they didn't get as far as Vienna. The Austrians wanted an armistice before he got there.
Ah, so somebody was more important than him and agreed an armistice to stop him taking Vienna. He must have been a bit naff by that, wasn't he? If he's
still just brigadier general, then he's not the big I am. He's not the guy in charge. There's a lot to change in France before that happens.
Then he gets massively promoted and became one of the directors, which is the three main guys in the government. And then he decides to go to take on the British in Egypt.
As you do.
Basically cut off the routes to the India. So in 1798, he set sail with about 38,000 guys.
Was there?
Pardon?
There wasn't a Suez Canal then. Why was Egypt a route to India? Did somebody not know about Turkey or something?
Well, the Turks, he was going to fight the Turks as well, but that wasn't going to be seen as a problem.
Right. Okay.
He ended up fighting.
So he goes from. So we've already had the British deciding to invade Toulon as a strategic thing, and then Napoleon becomes like the third most important man in France and thinks, I'm going to take an army to Egypt, because I think the British are there. And did we own it then, like all of Egypt, or was it just?
We didn't own it, but we had interest in the shipping.
So we had a lot of
key shipping point for supplies from British India and the spices and everything else coming out from India to pass through up the Red Sea, overland, and then up through the Mediterranean.
It is kind of weird, but to explain to him, it's like you're a successful bloke, right? You're doing well in business. You got a few weeks off. What else are you going to do except invade Egypt? It kind of
Egypt, yeah. Was it
where it goes?
Because I suppose was he big on obelisks and stuff? There was one in
Paris, he brought a load of scientists out with him. He had an army of about 38,000 men and including 500 scientists. And it's basically the modern study of Egyptology started from that expedition.
So he basically took an army to pretend to take on the British, but a load of scientists, they just nicked everything.
Rosetta Stone.
Right. Yeah. So he deciphered hieroglyphics as well.
Well, no, but some of the scientists that were with him did.
Found the stone, and the stone got nicked by the English after the Battle of the Nile.
You're welcome.
So does that mean? So does that mean there's like a missing Napoleonic remake of Raiders of the Lost Ark in which Napoleon discovers that thing?
It's called Stargate Atlantis.
I think there was a touch of the Alexander the Great in all this as well.
Ah.
So
okay.
on land, Napoleon was fighting the Ottomans. He thought that they had a massive battle. So he wasn't fighting the English in Egypt.
I thought he was.
The Ottoman Empire. So the battle of the
pyramids.
The pyramids.
The Ottoman Empire was like really old, wasn't it?
Yeah. So they were still.
We said earlier that he didn't go to Turkey because the
Ottoman Turks
they weren't important.
All the way around the North African coast at that point.
So I think what he was doing was he was threatening the English. Basically, the English at this point.
This is risk, isn't it? This is risk. He's like moving armies to Kamchatka.
This is Brexit, basically. This is what all your Rees-Moggs, think they're fighting the Napoleonic Wars, and the French think we're perfidious Albion because we're a nation of shopkeepers, as Napoleon called us, and we're trying to sort of blockade. Basically. Napoleon can't.
Britain's paying other people to fight France, and the French are getting fed up of it.
Exactly, the French get fed up of the English because they
decide to attack the Ottomans to get their revenge. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically the French think the English are paying everybody to fight against France on their behalf, because we're just
We
paying,
kind of were.
we're the nation of traders and we've got the money, so we're paying the Italians, the Austrians, the Germans to fight their war against France. Napoleon's fed up with things, right? I'll try and deal a blow to the English by doing something against India. So he goes into Egypt, where he fights the Ottomans. So at the Battle of the Pyramids, he fights this huge mounted Egyptian Ottoman army. They form big squares and defeat the Ottomans, but then his army starts to starve to death as he marches north towards Constantinople. Back to Andy.
To Constantinople. So, all right. So,
well, no, they got as far as Acre in Israel, and then the British. There was a British officer there who was helping to direct the siege, and the British did other sneaky things like sinking his siege train, and so Napoleon got stalled there and ultimately failed. But in the meantime, the French Navy had taken Napoleon's army out, and they were parked in Aboukir Bay near Alexandria, where Nelson came along and won a spectacularly brilliant victory, sinking 13 out of 17 French ships. And that kind of left Napoleon's army stuck without being able to get home. And
and it's amazing sailing to get into the bay because of the tides and everything else.
Well, also, in fact, we had
one
column going down the inside of the French ships, and that was an amazing bit of navigation.
There was a luck. It was very, very lucky because there was a gap that was just the right size with that tide for half the British fleet.
Yeah, but they weren't trying to navigate at night while being shot at in a very narrow thing. I think pretty impressive. Most other navies would have got nowhere near achieving it. But one thing you might like about this,
I think we ended the first week's episode on a bizarre naval battle involving the Royal Navy somewhere they probably never really should have been, and I think that's probably a good point.
Hang on, no, just finish the story.
There's more.
Finish the story in 30 seconds, okay? So the invasion of Egypt starts off really well, goes downhill, not really working. French fleet gets sunk. So Napoleon then says to his army, "Good luck, lads." Gets on a remaining ship, sails back to France.
Yeah. Where you think he's a failure,
that's
the emperor. Where by any stretch of the imagination, he's been a complete mess and a fuck up, to use the French. Yeah. He goes back to France, leaving his army to starve to death, more or less. And he comes back and he gets crowned emperor instead.
Well, no, he doesn't.
That's the mystery for next week, then, how that happened. And so
to
recap this week,
last week you were talking about the Carry On films. This week, remember Eric Morcecambe, The Boy Stood on the Burning Deck?
No.
Right. Well, The Boy Stood on the Burning Deck is the first line of a poem about the Battle of the Nile.
Okay.
What, the boy stood on the burning deck picking his nose like mad?
Well, no, it's actually The Boy Stood on the Burning Deck when all around had fled.
All right.
Okay.
Oh, I thought it was Boy Stood on the Burning Deck. He played a game of cricket. The ball went up his trouser leg and stumped his middle wicket.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely going to draw a line under this one now because
so is that nice and clear?
Dark place. It's really nice and clear. So we've done the Toulon malarkey. Then Napoleon defends against a country that doesn't really exist, that lives in forts, and ends up nearly attacking Austria and nearly taking Vienna. But then someone stops him doing that. He goes back home, gets promoted, and to celebrate getting promoted, and because he hates the British and everybody thinks that the British are paying everybody else off, he decides to attack the Ottoman Turks in Alexandria after his army has managed to get loads of baguettes from somewhere that's come from America. And then he goes there and for some reason sees the pyramids, steals things, doesn't really work out well, goes home, and then something really fabulous happens, which we will talk about next week. Sounds like job's a good one. Cue the music. This thing's bloody complicated, isn't it? My lord.
We haven't even got to the.
After we've done the Napoleonic piece, then the next section is the other great musical interlude that we're all looking forward to here. it is time for the magical music that heralds the start of Andy's quiz.
Comment les entendre? Question. Comment les voir? Question. Le trou est sans fond? Question. La légende le dit? Question. Elle dit aussi? Question. C'est une maladie? Question.
You don't all need to do the motions, mate. You can all calm down now. Everybody sit down again. That was a little bit excessive. It was like watching the beginning of the Muppet Show here, and everyone thought some of you were going to fall out of the windows. It was like really rocking out to that, which is a monster thing. So Andy, you've got last week's questions, and
yes, to which some people even bothered to send in answers. And just to remind you,
phone in answers.
The quiz was location, and I gave you the name of a region and 2 years, and you had to give me the name of the battle, which took place in those location in those years. So the first one was Eastern Europe, 1410 and 1914.
Tannenberg.
Yep. Central Europe, 1632 and 1813.
Leipzig.
Lutzen.
Yep. And North America, 1861 and 1862.
It was
Manassas or Bull Run.
Yeah, absolutely. Well done.
Comment les entendre? Question. Comment les voir? Question. Le trou est sans fond? Question. La légende le dit? Question. Elle dit aussi? Question. C'est une maladie? Question.
Right.
Fantastic.
This week, the question is called Poet's Corner. I'm going to read you the first bit of a famous poem, and you just have to say who wrote it and what the name of the poem was. So the first one is, "The Assyrian came down like the wolf on the fold." Right?
Deep.
Second one is, "The Charge of the Gallant 300."
Got that.
I'm guessing I know what it's about, but I'm not sure I know the poem. Yep.
The third one is, "Boom, boom, 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 boom."
Take me,
Yeah, I know
take me
that
back
one.
to your room.
There came the elephants.
Yeah. That could be anything. Okay. Well, short and sweet this week, which
Yeah, I know that one.
which is good. That means we get a ratio of music to questions that's really almost veering on the excessive as we wrap up Andy's quiz.
Yeah, with music again.
Les entendre? Question. Comment les voir? Question. Le trou est sans fond? Question. La légende le dit? Question. Elle dit aussi? Question. C'est une maladie? Question.
Okay, then. Well, that's this week nearly done. Another slightly epic session that we're coming into it. So if I just go round the windows and ask what's on the pile, what's arriving in the post, what's happening this week, Mr. Saunders. First up for you. You're top left at the moment.
Egyptian bowman finished. The 7 impacts infantry will be done and dusted. A couple of command bases will be done. So it's now moving on to bowman. It's going to be bowman for a while, I think.
Pure play Egyptians. Andy, you've got more Irish?
More plastic paddies, yeah, till I finish them. I need to buy some spears, so I'm not sure where to get them.
What, javelins?
Yeah.
Let's
I
talk.
think
I can do that.
You might be able to do it. I think North Star might have some more in, and I think Antonoki's workshop have got some now as well that are back in. I've seen this week somewhere.
Yeah,
so
okay.
They may have some.
I'm just checking in my bag. I think I've got some spears which are too large for anything else. I'll check it out, Andy. I might be able to do you that.
Oh, thank you. Okay, well, I need a dozen.
Yeah, I can't promise, but I'll have a look.
No, okay.
All right. And then
That's
Adam,
organised anyway.
Adam, what have you got this week? Are you undercoating something?
I've got the
the Romans.
tanks are now made that they're going to get finished painting, and some Lord of the Rings scatter terrain, dungeony, Moria type stuff that I'm going to get painted up because I can see in my future I'm going to be going down doing D&D with children. So sort of like dungeon scatter terrain will probably be a useful thing.
That's good. And Simon, what about you? Is it more just Swedes or anything else going to impinge on the painting pile?
More Swedes, but I can see some elephants on the table. So as part of the big Swedish order, I thought needed more elephants. So they had some Mameluke, so not Mameluke, some of the one of the Indonesian army lists where you can have an elephant with a guy with a gun on top of it.
Artillery.
So you need elephants with guns, basically.
Is that a
Elephant
QRF
artillery.
elephant? Is that a
It's a
QRF elephant?
QRF one, yeah.
And what are they like? Are they decent figures?
Yeah, they're quite nice. They're not as sharp as the museum, the new Z range, the classical Indians. But for an elephant that says, "I am an armored elephant with a guy with a gun on top and bow and guy with a big stick," it definitely has presence. You know, it's got full chest armor. You know, the head has got armor. Then the tusks have got pointy sticks on them as well. So it looks like a proper elephant.
Okay, all the duvet stuff. So I think for me, it is just, I think potentially if the weather's a bit chilly this weekend, these Hungarians could get finished. I could do a little bit of a blitz on the infantry because they're not too difficult, apart from those bowmen that I still keep poking at, Dave. And I think you're right from last week. They do look, I've no idea what they're wearing and what different bits of them, what colour.
Figures, yeah.
Very, very weird figures. So I might
About the
even get them
reindeer?
done. I may even get them done by the end of this week, and just a bit more retrofitting and upcycling of some other troops to round out that army. But that's it. And then I'll be facing the difficult decision of what to do next. If not by next week, but certainly by the week after, I would have thought. Tamsin, you said you were starting some 2000 AD people.
I Judge Dredd figures. I've ones I primed judges. So I've got nine judges on foot, 2 riders and 2 lawmasters, bikes.
What colour are you doing the judges' uniforms?
That's one of the things I'm debating. It's whether to go with more sort of the comic look or a more gritty look, like a bit like the 2012 film.
Good film.
Yeah.
I prefer the comic figure.
Pun?
Do you get a Judge Death figure?
Oh yes, I've got Judge Death.
Oh, we like Judge Death. The sentence.
Yeah, they haven't released the other dark judges yet.
The crime is life and the sentence is death and all that.
Yes.
That's what we
With
like.
yeses drawn out.
Yeah.
Okay.
We like that.
Well, on that cheery note, Peter, are you still doing? Are you going to run out of the Austrians your own while you're waiting for them to ship from wherever they're coming?
That's just it. I might be Austrianed out while I'm waiting for Eureka to come through. So I might be tempted to. My fallback position is a bunch of Arabs, 15 mil Arabs. And it's sort of like what we were talking about earlier.
You've not ordered them while we've been online, have you? You've just been tempted to suddenly just click, and away you go.
These are part of the lead pile that I got from War and Empire when I did the Kickstarter for them. So I've got yet more. It's to fill out my sort of like feudal period. So that period from sort of like the Normans all the way through, I've got enough to sort of swap out various armies. So I've got some sort of basically horsemen non-impact. I've got some more foot, sort of medium foot and that sort of thing. And same with the sort of Normans, that sort of thing. So it's the ones I'd pick depending on what the competition's like and everything else, but I wouldn't normally have. So that's why they're in the pile of to get around to when I've run out of other stuff.
And I guess for you, it's a lot easier for you to paint an Arab army than any of the rest of us, because you're always going to pick the Crusader ally to get as many medium knights as you can into the list. So you just need a third less figures than the rest of us.
Well, also I've got the technique of spray them white, funnily enough, again, and use those contrast paints, because then it's nice, bright colours, nice and vibrant on it. So they sort of paint up and look quite nice on the table in the end. So, you know, it might be a rash of doing those depending on the weather, and or I get a couple of games in with my son instead.
That's true, yeah, because this week is online tabletop simulator week then as well, isn't it? Good. Okay. Yeah. Well, look, on that note, unless anybody's got any other business to chip in, any other thoughts this week, I think it's time to wrap up at just a shade over 2 hours this time. I think we're recording this Monday night. The last podcast came out on Friday about tea time, and we're already at well over 100 listens for that one. Some of the older ones are now up to 200. So there's certainly people listening to this. Thank you for surviving yet another one. And
thank you to our fans for listening.
Yeah, thanks for all our fans for listening.
Cheers.
And we will
Thanks for fans
we
for
will say
listening,
goodbye.
Alex.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Goodbye.
I think
Goodbye.
fan might be stretching it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. For all our listeners for listening, then.
Yeah,
Possibly
Andy's
to the
getting
end.
fan mail.
Yeah. True. Andy's
Oh,
getting
it's all
fan mail.
shared. I'll tell you all about it.
Right. Okay. We'll all be done. Excellent. All right. Thank you very much. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Your computer doesn't have the minimum requirements without a green screen, but let's see what.
Fine. You're done then.
And,
We'll live with you as the Klingon.
Yeah, I'd be called worse.